I have 7 tips, Tom's tips for taking the high road instead of the low road. Well, hello everyone. I guess I don't need the mask when we're going virtual. Today for our coffee discussion, I'd like to share some thoughts about the topic of the power of assuming good intentions, which basically means that we work to create positive relationships instead of undermining them with assuming people's bad intent. Let me point out what I have heard a few times. Have you heard this? He is so rude. I said good morning and he didn't even respond back. What's wrong with you? I waved at you and you didn't wave back at me. Nobody tells new residents what they need to know. You people don't keep us informed. I sent you a message. Why didn't you respond? I've heard these things. But what actually happened in some of those circumstances, for number one, Jim's hearing is getting worse. He's having a difficult time while he's waiting for a new hearing aid. That's why he didn't hear when someone said good morning. I personally find glare on car windows often make it hard to see who's inside, and I don't know whether someone has waved at me or said something, but I can't tell because of the glare. It's Florida, it's bright. New residents. I find we often underestimate how overwhelmed new residents are just from the moving process. Many people move here because they have had recent changes in their life. Sometimes they have had the recent death of a spouse, and those things in and of itself occupy so much of one's brains and one's energy. And it's just a challenge to retain all of the information you get in a thick binder and this handout and that handout. And people don't always know what it is they need to remember later. So we underestimate what people already have been given but need reinforcing. Communication, I'm just going to say monthly newsletter, weekly door hanger, computer app program, email. There's lots of communication, and sometimes things get missed. But many times we ourselves have just forgotten or overlooked something. And this has happened to me, where I sent a message to someone and then I was disappointed or upset that they didn't respond. And I went back to my phone and I looked and I had typed it out and I had missed the send button. It wasn't they didn't get it. I didn't send it. So assuming that is not a good thing. I know people who work at a desk. My sister in Sarasota, she lives in Bradenton and works in Sarasota. She works at a desk, and if you sent her an email or a text or something, she would probably respond quickly because she can do that in the middle of her day. I am at a desk sometimes. I'm here taping these episodes sometimes. I'm visiting people, I'm doing other things. So if you want me to respond to something urgent, an email may not be the way to do it. You may want to call or text or call the desk and have them find me. An email I will usually read sometime that day. Plus, I may be off on a day, and so the email may not get answered for a few days. So that's the kind of thing that the reality that really does happen to people. Blame is an easy thing to pass around. It seems to be a human quality that we, instead of taking responsibility for our own action, it's easy to quickly blame others. It's also easy to blame others for things they did not do, especially if they aren't there to defend themselves. Assigning blame to another person is a good way to undermine our relationships with loved ones and family, with friends and neighbors, and with those that we work with in the workplace or volunteer as part of our community. So instead of blame, is there a better way? I'd like to suggest that there is power in assuming good intentions instead of bad intentions. In doing some research for this talk, I read 5 different articles that were about business supervision and teamwork and relationships, and one that was about personal relationships. Each one of those articles addressed the problem and suggests that we would be wise to assume good intentions in other people instead of bad. 2 quotes for you. First, from Terry Maxwell. Assume positive intent, for this is a missing ingredient for personal joy. So just personal joy, assuming positive. Anthony Inerario says, most of the time, and there are exceptions, people are acting out of good intentions. He also mentions that in the workplace that if someone doesn't do something that you wish they had done or doesn't do it in the way you wish, most of the time it's because they need education or informing or didn't realize the consequences, that most people are trying to do their best. Well, I have 7 tips, Tom's tips for taking the high road instead of the low road. Number 1, if we want to succeed in something that we're doing or something that we're part of, we have to make an effort. Most of the time, to have things go in a positive way and to accomplish takes a little effort on our part. Blaming others, taking the low road, that's the easy way out. That doesn't help. So if we want to succeed, we have to make an effort. Number 2 is like that. Success is rarely an accident. It requires acting with a purpose. A few years ago, there was a book on purpose-driven life and purpose-driven business and purpose-driven several other things. And it was about thinking about what your principles are and then applying them to your life and to your work and to your relationship with others. Number 3, don't sabotage the work of other people. It will come back to haunt you. Sabotaging things can make our community less attractive to others. Sabotaging relationships means we lose as well. Don't do that. Number 4, give people the benefit of the doubt. Assume the best. Each of us here at Village on the Green who are employed as team members go through training that is reinforced often through each day or each week or the time that we are here. And one of the principles is to assume the best in others, because when you do that, people live up to it. Number 5, when someone makes a mistake or they fail in a task, most of the time they usually try to do well. And so in a work situation or even as a friend or a neighbor, sometimes we can be of help so that someone has the tools to succeed. When we blame, when we assume the worst, number 6, we create defensive people. Defensiveness is dangerous. In an organization, your workers stop listening or stop learning because you're making them defensive and unhappy. Defensiveness throws up barriers to good relationships. So making someone defensive is counterproductive in many ways. And number 7 is something that I think we all learned or were told about as children, and that is if we complain too much, others will stop listening to us. Complain too much, and people stop listening. So then we're undermining our own efforts. Remember those first scenes? What if instead of complaining because Jim didn't hear me and all these other things, imagine this. If you speak to someone and they don't respond, your first thought is, I guess Jim didn't hear me, or maybe he had something on his mind. I'm going to be sure and speak to him again because I want to do that. I'm going to keep waving to people from my car because I enjoy doing that, whether they see me and wave back or not. That's not why I do it. I do it because I want to wave and be polite. Number 3, new residents. I'm going to help a new resident and do so with a positive attitude. I don't know all the things that are on their mind. I don't know whether they missed a piece of information. I'm going to help, and I'm not going to blame or complain about it because I want to help them, even if it means I do the same thing several times. Communication. You know, I may have forgotten. Can you please tell me about the event that's coming? Because I need I need a refresher. And the last one, remember the message that I thought that I sent and I didn't. The receiving person, instead of blaming, could say, I didn't get that message, Tom. Would you please tell me again? And then I have that opportunity. So assume the best of life and of other people. Give people the benefit of the doubt, and when you're in doubt about that, just ask. That's easy. Remember that building up people around us, instead of tearing them down, makes for better relationships, better neighbors, and a better community. The next time you start to blame or criticize, try to catch yourself before those words come out of your mouth. Or if you've already spoken them, take the time to restate what you really mean in positive terms. Oh, you know, forget what I just said. Let me tell you about this instead of blame. All of us can be part of the solution, part of making our community and our lives a better place, instead of being part of the problem and tearing things down. Assume good intentions. It's worth the effort.